So today we're just going to be looking at the telco hotspot configuration. Let's just look into what exactly we need to look at when we are talking about the hotspot configuration. So we've got part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is mainly just configuration of the router, using the script, editing one or two things on the script, and part 2 is mainly just testing, and you just to check also user connectivity, then also using the portal page, what is it that we need to look at when we want to connect to the hotspot. Then also the radius server connectivity, and also being able to go into the radius server, which is the BYOD server that we use for the hotspot, just to check the customer. If the customer is trying to connect, we check using the mobile number. If the customer has got credit, if the customer is using the free bundle, we can also check and see in the radius server. So let's just dive right in. So what are we saying here? So this is basically just a very simple schematic drawing that I've just put here, just for us to just be able to just see what does it look like when we are talking of a hotspot. What is the setup like? What kind of configuration are we looking at? When we just run the script, we don't even know what's on the script if we don't know how to translate the script. So here, but basically what we are doing here is, if you look, we have got these 2 access points. They can be even 5, they can be 4, depending on the size of the router that you'll be using for the hotspot. And basically on these access points, if it's just a normal telco hotspot connectivity, it will only have 2 SSIDs. One is the telco Wi-Fi, the second one is the telco Wi-Fi secure, and each and every one of these SSIDs is running on its different VLAN, which is this 401 and 403 here. And also these access points are connecting to a router on different LAN interfaces, and then on each one of these LAN interfaces there is also a VLAN defined to carry traffic to each and every VLAN on the SSIDs, right? So remember, this router here that we are looking at as the hotspot router, it's also working as a RAS to the BYOD server that we'll be using as the radius server for user authentication and accounting. So basically, here looking at this router, when we first look at it, the connectivity for us to be able to reach any server or any connectivity on the network, the first thing we need to configure is just basic configurations, like the PPOE, the VLAN, and just probably running the script with the long password and some other security features on that on the script on the script with the long password. So basically what we are saying here is that there are 2 servers that we need to look at when we are configuring a router. The first server is the radius server. The second server is the unify server. So why are these 2 different, and why do we have these 2 servers here? Of course, there's another server in question. I will talk about it a bit later when we are talking about router files, the router hotspot files, because there's another server where those particular files are running from, or where those files are pointing to get some other information for the hotspot, right? But in this instance here, these are the only servers that we want to look at. So this Unify server, its main purpose is just to be able to monitor the access points. Second thing is to be able to configure the access point. So the SSIDs for the access points, they're configured in this particular server here. You can log into the server and check on each and every site that we have in the server. There's a site called telco Wi-Fi, and under that telco Wi-Fi you'll be able to see all the access points and their locations in that particular Unify server, right? So mainly it's just for AP traffic adoption and configuration. That's what this server is about. And then this BYOD server here is just for accounting and authentication, right? So each and every user that uses the hotspot, they're going to be authenticated by this server, and also the accounting is going to be handled by this particular server here, right? And then the setup for this hotspot router to internet can pretty much be anything. It can be fiber or it can be radio connectivity. So the transport here really it doesn't matter. What is really important for us right now is the configuration and the monitoring for the hotspot, right? So and these are things that we're talking about here. So the four main key things that we need to look at first is the hotspot script, and then the second thing is the PPOE credentials for internet connectivity, and the third thing is the one VLAN and the hotspot files. So before you start looking at configuring your hotspot, first make sure that you have got these four things and you have them on your computer or anywhere else where you are able to make use of these. The PPOE credentials and VLAN, these should be able to you'll be provided these by the network administrators. So step one, what do we do? First, we got our router and we are on site. First thing, we need to reset the router to its default configuration, because when you get a router, it will come with some default configurations that we don't want to use when we are running our hotspot or any other configuration. Then the second thing is configure the PPOE credentials and VLAN on the router, just like a normal customer router connectivity, right? So you can either edit this PPOE credentials and VLAN on the script. Then the third thing that we need to look at now is, remember now you've got your hotspot script, so we need to just copy and paste the configuration from the hotspot script into the router terminal. So on the router, you see there's a terminal, you just copy and paste, right? Then the fourth thing is we need to change the radius server source address to the PPOE public IP address. So basically what we are saying here is, remember when you get a PPOE credential, it's going to come with a public IP, and that public IP is the one that we're going to use to configure on the source address under the radius connectivity. Then the fifth thing is we need to upload the hotspot files. Then also check and ensure that the hotspot file configuration is pointing to the correct hotspot files. The hotspot server file configuration is pointing to the correct hotspot files that you'd have uploaded in the router. Then the sixth thing that we need to look at is configuration of the RAS information in BIOD radius server, or the 421.1.236.46 server. So this will be able to allow the router to work as the remote access server for the hotspot, right? So I think let's just for now, I think let's just go in and configure, and let me just show you how we paste and copy and paste the hotspot script into the router first before we continue to the next part, which is the hotspot testing, right? So let's do that now. So first thing, you just need to open your Winbox. I've already opened mine, and my router is already in its default state. As you can see, there is really no configuration on this router, and by default there will be these LAN interfaces will be Ether 1, Ether 3, Ether 4, Ether 5, right? So what we just need to do now is just mainly when you have got this script here, so everyone should have this script to be able to fully configure this router. The only thing that you are only editing on this script is the VLAN ID and the PPOE credentials. These two things here, and lastly, of course, the system identity for the hotspot that you'll be configuring, right? So always note that this configuration here, you can always copy or export it from a running hotspot router, but of course you need to know what you'll be doing, because there are a couple of things that you will need also to edit there. But in case you have this script, you can always export from a running configuration on a live hotspot router. So what we're just going to have to do here, we're just going to have to copy everything, right? And then go into the router. This is the terminal tab here. Then what we just need to do there, as you can see here, the identity is still default identity, still Mikrotik. What we just need there to do is just to copy and paste, and just leave the router do whatever it will be doing whilst it's taking in the configuration for the hotspot, right? And I think it should be done in about a second, and now there it's done. So you can see now the system identity has already changed to SPA bridge there. And the other things we need to check from our slides, as I have mentioned, the first thing after pasting is to check the radius configuration, source address, right? If it's the correct public IP address for that you were given. Then also make sure that here under general, the service that we are using there is hotspot. And also make sure that you're pointing to the correct radius server there. Okay, that should be it. Then also it's also very important to make sure that you verify your configuration, right? So you can see here that already the moment we pasted our configuration into the router, our interfaces have been renamed. And even if we go to the VLAN here, you can also see that our interfaces were also renamed. So it's very important to also be able to go through this configuration and verify that each and every config has been applied correctly. And you can also see there that that the configuration is now there. And other things that we might need to also check is the DHCP server. Just make sure that our configuration has been applied correctly. You can also see there that that configuration there is there. Okay, so so you can also see, so the other key thing that we need to also look at is to make sure that these VLANs, they've also been applied in the interface bridge, and also to make sure that we have got LAN 1, LAN 2 under the LAN bridge. So this is basically for the access points to be able to get a management IP address that we are going to be using for adoption and also for identity. Then that should be it. Now our configuration has been applied correctly into the router, right? I'll also show you a bit later how we also configure the RAS information in the radius server. And now what we need to also do is to also copy and paste the hotspot files. So you can see here, the moment you copy and paste the script, it's going to insert these files that we do not want, right? So we need to remove these files. This is the correct file, but I'm just going to show you how it's done also, right? So what we now need to do is we need to navigate wherever your file is on your machine. It can be anywhere. So we just need to navigate. Then we look for our file. I'm just going to look for my file. I think it should be somewhere there. There it is, telco open access. Then I'm going to paste it into the router, right? So the moment it's pasted in there, what you also need to make sure you check is under the hotspot configuration server profile. You also see that the HTML directory is still pointing to the wrong file. So you just have to make sure that that is pointing to the correct files that you have just pasted into the router, right? Then that should be it. Then after that now, then after we are done with that, the next thing we need to check now is to test and see if we have got internet connectivity, and also to test our hotspot. So now let's get into testing our hotspot. Let's go back to our presentation here. Let's just give it some time to load in there. Right. So the next thing now that we are looking at, we are now looking at how do we configure the RAS in the radius server. So this is our radius server that we use. In other settings, you'll be able to see that there's a part where it says add new RAS there. You can click on add new RAS. If you just want to check and verify if your RAS is already there, just click on RAS list there. You'll be able to see. So let's move in. So this is how you configure. When you say add new, make sure you type the correct vendor that we are using here. We're using Mikrotik. Then put the RAS public IP. Describe the type, the site that you are also configuring. If it's Pomona, just type hs_Pomona hotspot. Then also put the radius secret there. The radius secret, so remember this part here is very important because it has to be the same with what is in the router. So if you go here in the router, you'll be able to see that under the router you can see there that the secret here is T306 and this is what you want to put under the radius server here on the radius secret. So you want to make sure that that is correct. You don't have to if those passwords are different, remember you might not be successful in testing your hotspot. And then there we go. This is the next step. After that, you just have to make sure that your Mikrotik disconnect port is changed to that and the interval is changed to that as well. Then, yeah, I think we have successfully configured our router. All right. So remember here we're just looking about we're just dealing with configuration for the router. So there we are done and we have configured the router also in the radius server. Then the next thing now we need to look at the second part. Remember we talked about two parts. The first one was configuration. The second one was testing. So now we're looking at testing now. So this is live hotspot testing. So this is done on site. When you're on site, step one, you need to connect to the SSID telco Wi-Fi. The second thing now that you need to do, just sign in or click where it says sign in. If it's on Android, if it's an iOS device, it's gonna pop a splash page with this page here that you're looking at here, which says welcome to telco. Then click on accept. That's the second step there. And then after that, it's gonna ask you to enter your mobile number. Then just say continue. Then it's gonna send you an OTP, a one-time PIN to your mobile SMS. Then you're gonna put you just have to put the PIN there, right? Then after that, if it's your first time to connect to the hotspot, guys, just note this down. Where it says free Wi-Fi here, there's gonna be a green. There's gonna be a green bar here. It's gonna be green here, and it will show you that it's 100%. So the more you consume the data, the percentage starts decreasing, right? So for me here, I've got free. I have no bundle. I don't have free bundles, right? So in a case where if you have got free bundle, you just click on it and you are connected. If you want to purchase the data, just make sure you select here the data that you want or the bundle that you want, then also put your email address there, then click on purchase bundle. It's going to take you through a pay now process and fill in some information. I think the steps are quite clear. Then it's going to ask you to select if you want to use EcoCash, MasterCard, or anything else for the hotspot. Then that should be it. Then the fifth step, when you are done with that registration and the payment, reconnect to the Wi-Fi, and go back to the splash page, select the bundles. So here, if you see here what it says start browsing with bundle, if you click there, it will take you to this part here. Then you select where the bundle that you have got credit, as you can see the balance there. Then the moment you do that, it's going to let you in, and there you are starting to browse, right? So now let's move into troubleshooting, right? So now this is now remote troubleshooting. You are at the office or you are remotely troubleshooting the person who is failing to access to the hotspot. What are the steps that we need to check? This is the hotspot that was configured a long time ago, but it's not working properly. So the first thing we need to do is we just need to make sure that our router is running the correct hotspot files, right? Because remember, these hotspot files are also pointing to our open access server, where we have got some other, where the hotspot is basically getting most of the splash page information, etc. So you just have to make sure you're running the correct files, right? So you have to make sure that you have got that file. If it's running the wrong file, make sure you've got the correct file. Next thing, verify the hotspot server file configuration is pointing to the correct files in the directory, right? You make sure that, I think we have already covered this in the configuration part of the hotspot. Then the third thing is the radius server source address. Just make sure that the source address is correct, and also make sure that the secret is correct, and also make sure that you have selected hotspot on the services there, right? Okay, let's move on. Then under bridge, just make sure that the hotspot VLAN for telco Wi-Fi is configured under the OA bridge, right? Yeah, then the fifth thing is, if you log into the Unify server, you go on under telco Wi-Fi site, you'll be able to navigate to the particular access point that you want to look at. Then just check there on under the wireless LAN, you'll be able to see if your access point, so this access point in particular is running 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, under 5 gigahertz and 2.4. So you can also see there that you've got channel 11 and channel 149 both broadcasting two of these SSIDs, right? Then the sixth thing is under the hotspot server configuration. If you go under the status tab, if the hotspot is fully working properly, you should be able to see under the accepted request there, you'll be able to see the number accumulating, which means that probably some users are fully authenticating or they are successfully authenticating to the router. If this is not working properly, you see a lot of rejects and resends requests there. So just make sure that you are getting also some accepted requests there. Then now let's look at now another way to also check if the user is also gone through the registration process. So if you log into the Radia server, search for user by using the customer mobile number, then also check the credit. So if you log in, you go on search users, then under the internet username, click alike there, then put the username, which is the cell number. You can just type from 0 here, it should be able to come up. Then the moment you click search there, you should be able to see this user, right? So if you see FTW, I'm pretty sure this user here registered using the free bundle. You can also see open access test. So this is under the free bundles, and the user has already accumulated, or they've already used up that particular credit which was put there. So this user here will not have the free bundle. Then that should be it. I think now we can safely say we can configure the hotspot without any problem. So that's how you test. Always remember, if the hotspot is working perfectly fine, we need to check that as well. Also verify all those steps that we have gone through to make sure that you have successfully configured your hotspot. Thank you, good day, and good luck.